Hello and welcome to After Sound Review, and this time I will review I've never heard of this brand before my friend sent it to me to be reviewed, and this is the Fiil T1 Pro. Yes, you heard me right, this is the Fiil Fiil. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Maybe you could say this as Fi, maybe it's a cousin of Fio, but no, this is Fiil. Look at this place, this is Fiil. And so yes, this is the capital F IIL in smaller letters. Okay, and then just like usual, I will review them based on the build, fit, and then feature, frequency response, and comparison. Right from the build itself, it is made of plastic. It's all plastic, and you get this magnetic close, and yeah, it feels really good in your hands. It just feels like a really good quality plastic in my hand. It just looks really clean, and I don't find any sharp edges or rough edges anywhere from the case itself and also on the true wireless itself. And yes, you can see that it looks really clean, it just looks really good, and it feels good really in my ears. Really, I could wear them for hours because it's just small, it's not really big, and yeah, it just really feels good in my ears. And when it comes to features, I need to show you the box itself. This is the Bluetooth 5.2, and it's definitely using fast charging, 32 hours long duration, yes. And from my real life experience, the battery life is excellent, and it has low latency for gaming, and you get this IPX5 water resistant and active noise cancelling. Also, you get an app actually, but this Fiil app, you couldn't get them through the Play Store or Apple Store, but instead you need to download it from the Fiil website itself, and it is all in Chinese. So if you cannot read Chinese just like me, I'm having a little bit of hard time trying to figure out what's happening and what's for what. But of course, thanks to the visualization itself, I could guess which one is the equalizer. And so yeah, for me, this is actually kinda not ready for international release, I guess. But nevertheless, the app itself looks really clean, and the user interface is really good and quite responsive. So yeah, it just needs this English translation and it will be all perfect. And when it comes to the sound, I will use my Samsung Galaxy S10 Pro, S10 Plus I mean, sorry, and also my iBasso DX160 as my source, and I definitely cannot use my Kidix 5K or my i5 XDSD. And here is the songs that I use. So this is the frequency response of the Fiil T1 Pro, which I consider to be really good for the price. For me, this is a warm-ish balance. You can see that the emphasis is on the bass right around here. It definitely gives a huge bass, big thumping bass, and also, but the mid-range is not subdued, it's not recessed. You can see that there's a peanut gain around the 2 to 3 kilohertz, and after that there's a roll off around this area. So yes, this is a safe-ish warm tonality, but without sacrificing the vocal. This is quite good frequency response. This is how I compare them to the Harman response from the Touch Gym Oxygen. You can see that the Touch Gym Oxygen actually has less mid bass, and also the vocal rise is more stable. Like here, there's a more stable bump around here, but if you're looking it as a whole picture, it actually has some kind of similarity, especially around this area. Yeah. And then if I compare them to the Lipertec TV, I don't know, still Lipertec TV. Lipertec TV actually looks like Touch Gym Oxygen. It's quite Harman-ish somehow, and the Lipertec TV is a little bit more tidy in the frequency response thanks to its better latency. Also, it for me simply has more balanced overall, but Fiil T1 Pro is more fun and is more safe to hear. while the Live Protective is somehow more neutral-ish to my ear, especially on the bass. Then thanks to that, the vocal is more forward and simply more neutral-ish somehow in my ears for the Live Protective. And then this is the DF neutral from the Swanergy X01. You can see that the bass for my neutrality for the DF neutral is actually much more subdued. It doesn't have this much of a bass, and also again there's a little bit of similarity, but the upper mid is a little bit more on the Fiil T1 Pro. So overall for me, the Fiil T1 Pro has a really good frequency response, which is still warm and balanced, still fun, but not sacrificing the vocal area. So you have seen the frequency response, and based on the frequency response alone, you could simply describe the sound as a warm-ish, almost V-shaped kind of thing. The main emphasis is more on the bass and on the upper mid-range, but after that you could see that there's a treble roll-off that makes the whole sound looks simply warm, and definitely the perceived sound from what I hear is definitely warm. Right on the bass, it is a good bass. It's slam, it has a good slam, it's punchy, it's big, it's quite thick, it's just not really tight and not really speedy, it's not really agile. But let me tell you that we are talking about a true wireless area where bass volume especially is such in high demand, because you're not using it for serious listening, but instead you're using it for commute, for running, maybe for jogging in the morning, or for whatever you do, for maybe walk at the mall, walk at the park. You will need such a high demand for a quite amount of bass, and they definitely provide that. It's such a fun bass that you could play pop or EDMs at it. And then when it comes to the mid-range, it's such a smooth mid-range. I could perceive some thickness in there, so a male vocal will sound a bit more powerful. It's quite thick there, like Josh Groban or Il Divo. It just sounds quite thick. But for me, when I hear some Asian vocals, like for Blackpink, for Joyce Chu, for Cindy, and it just lacks a little bit of clarity up there. It's just not as sweet, not as thin, and as I expect it to be. It just sounds quite thick, but it never goes like overwhelmed, so the sounds feels muted. No, it just sounds still quite balanced and smooth, and it never goes to the sibilance area. For example, I have one song like from the Phil Collins, The Son of Man. It's such a bad recording at its time, even though the music itself is gold. I love the music of Phil Collins, but the recording is bad. There's a lot of sibilance in that song, but I feel it's safe in this kind of true wireless. So yeah, the tonality I could simply say as safe. But yeah, if you're a treble head, we will not hear a lot of details at the treble. So yeah, the treble itself gets a little bit more subdued. You don't really get a lot of high cymbal crash or hi-hat there, because there's not a lot of energy in the treble area. But yeah, you get that really safe kind of sound here. And when it comes to the separation, honestly, at this price point, if you're comparing it to some of the wired IMs like the Moondrop, Stardust, or the Tin Audio Tin C2 Plus that I have here, it is one level below. It's not as good as both of them, but remember again, the Stardust and Tin 2 Plus is definitely better in clarity and better in separation, but they are wired and the purpose is quite different. But thankfully the soundstage itself is quite good, so you definitely get this kind of 3D-ish, but it's more like elongated to the left and right. You don't really get that kind of 3D-ness from it. So I should say that the technicalities is not the main point of this true wireless. It's just how good it feels in my ears, and also the control itself is really good. And then you don't really need such a, you don't definitely need to wear them over your ears with cable like this. It's just for your commute, for your daily walks, and it definitely serves the purpose. It's just not as detailed as some of the wired items right there. And when I compare them to the LiPertec TV, which is quite excellent for me in the true wireless area, the LiPertec TV definitely has cleaner sound. It has more prominent forward vocal with clearer vocals. But at the same time, I feel that sometimes when I use the LiPertec TV in commute, I feel I need a little bit more bass punch there, and this Fiil for me feels more suitable for walking, for commute, such a crowded area that you will need a lot of bass there. So yes, it is, for me, it is really easy to recommend them for who want to have a true wireless with a quite balanced sound signature, with a lot of features, with easy control, and with a lot of battery life. And yeah, it is simply a really good true wireless coming from an unknown brand. Seriously, I have never heard of Fiil at this point, and they truly give me such a good impression. And one more thing, it's just like I hope that it will release the app in English mode, but because seriously, I think the app itself is the number one bad thing from this Fiil. Okay, I think that's all for me today. If you have any question, please write down in the comments below. And thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.